Welcome to another episode of Step Forward with M6, the podcast where we explore leadership, innovation, and the skills shaping the future of work. Today, we are joined by Luka Tomat, PhD, a full-time member of the Department of Business Informatics and Logistics at the School of Economics and Business in University of Ljubljana in Slovenia. Luka teaches information management and data transformation at both undergraduate and master's levels, and he's a leading researcher in AI, in digital transformation, in business process management, and the use of digital technology in education. Luka has delivered over 150 AI-related workshops for private and public organizations and has collaborated in projects ranging from AI in public finance, forecasting, the integrating AI solutions in education and business. Today, he joins us to discuss how organizations can lead transformation using generative AI and what this means for leaders, for employees, and the future of work in general. We expect practical advice, concrete examples, and takeaways that you can implement immediately in your organization. So, Professor Luka Tomat, can you introduce yourself, please, and share what inspired you to focus on AI and its role in helping people how to learn, how to upskill, and how to develop professionally?
Thank you for the nice introduction, and thanks to M6 to having me here. It's a great honor and pleasure. AI and transformation and all these things, right? Digital transformation. But first, my introduction. So my background is actually from optimization, from linear programming. This is some strange and also interesting topic. And from that, after my PhD, I moved to digitalization, and now lately I work with data science, data analytics, stuff like that. And AI is also part of, let's say, data science. So I've been involved in AI, let's say, for the last 10, 15 years, something like that. And now most recently, when we have this generative AI, of course, which is super hyped currently, I'm also working in that area as well. So maybe before we start with the answering your question, maybe it's very important for everyone, for organizations and for everyone, that we distinguish between AI and generative AI, right? Because we have AI like an umbrella term, exactly. And then you have different types like machine learning and stuff like that. And somewhere inside you also have this generative AI, which is, or let's say, from behavior perspective, it's a bit different, right? So it works a bit differently, and also the outputs are a bit different, right? So when we talk about this recent hype, we talk about generative AI because, let's say, general AI, artificial intelligence, is with us for the last 70 years or something like that. So it's nothing new per se, right? So we cannot say, now, when we have AI, because we have AI for the last 75 years.
Exactly.
But what we most oftenly talk about now is generative AI, which is, by my opinion, we have a hype currently, because every time when a new technology comes or emerges, you usually have these high expectations, and this is
then valleys of disappointment.
Yeah, and then you have this, let's say, the moment of truth, right? When we all say, oh no, this is rubbish, we don't need that, and then slowly, it starts to climb, and then we reach this plateau, right? So today we'll probably talk more about generative AI, right?
Exactly.
So my motivation for this field, actually, because you asked, is that when I finished my PhD, I also discovered so-called data mining, and data mining also uses AI. So I was fascinated by those machine learning algorithms, and even when I was young, I really liked to work with computers, also did a bit of coding, not too much, stuff like that. And then it naturally moved me into AI as well, and the rest is history, right? So
nice.
So much about me, right?
Okay, so now you're here at M6 Education Center for the Board of Trustees program in Macedonia. Why did you choose the title Leading Organizational Transformation with Generative AI as your lecture topic? And what can the participants expect in terms of support for their professional and personal development?
So usually people perceive AI, when somebody says AI, usually the first perception or association is technology, right? So that's why we have organizational in the title, because we want to emphasize that this is actually not a technological change or transformation, but it's organizational one. So again, whenever a new technology comes and we have this disruption or transformation, a lot of companies and organizations think that this is something that has to do with technology. Of course, it does to do with, it does with the technology, but actually what we need to change is mindset and organizational mindset, I would say, and business processes, right? So it's very similar to digital transformation because, in the recent, 20 years or something like that, organizations went through digital transformation. It was very similar case because when it started, and this is what's going on now with Gen AI, when all this starts, it's usually like, let's do it. We also want to have it. So this is great new technology. Let's implement it, right? So usually, or a lot of times, organizational board, they come and they say to the IT department, hey, IT department, AI is something from IT, so you should implement it. We go and you implement it, which is not the right approach, I would say. I think that it's very important to emphasize the organizational aspects and the changes in the business processes. So this is something that I think that the focus should be put on. Also, it's very important that we have supportive leadership, so that we have this lead by example, and that leadership of the organizations actively participates in such projects and stuff like that. So it is a transformation for sure, Gen AI transformation. We are now starting with this transformation, so it's really hard to say what will happen at the end. But what we can say for now, that this is again organizational transformation. So it's not technological. Technology is there. Okay, it's very nice that we have it. But if we want to utilize it and we want to, let's say, usually organizations, they have some business models, right? Why? Because they want to add some value to or value proposition to the customers or to the end user or whoever. So again, technology help in this, let's say, journey. Gen AI is helping, but the true change will be in changing the business processes and the mindset. So this is organizational stuff. So that's why we wanted to emphasize that this is organizational change, right? So not
exactly.
Technology.
So very often digitalization, they think just turn a paper into digital forms. That's not
exactly
the point.
Exactly.
Digitalization is thoroughly reforming the business processes rather than just digital version of the paper.
Exactly. So it was. So this is the same thing is happening now, right? When people say Gen AI or AI, they think, oh yeah, the magic wand. So I will just buy something off the shelf and install it, and then I will, the victory is mine. But it's not.
So, in your view, how do companies today use AI to support the continuous learning, reskilling, and personal development rather than just productivity and automation? Do they?
This is very good question, and I think so. When you ask how do they, I think the majority actually doesn't. They don't do that. So what I see from companies, and also what the research is showing currently, is that we have two, let's say, viewpoints. One is the viewpoint of the management, and there's just been a recent study where they show that the management perceives, right? So they believe that Gen AI is super good for productivity, super good for everything, and they believe that it's helping their organizations to increase productivity. But on the other hand, the same employees from the same organizations, they think that it's actually a bit counterproductive. So we have this gap here, right, from the perceptions, when the management thinks something and the operations are something else. So when we talk about, let's say, first productivity, and then we'll go to skills and learning. So productivity, of course, you have two options, I would say. So one is so-called, we say, ad hoc use of Gen AI. It means that I have some problem. I will just open some ChatGPT or some similar tool or whatever, Copilot, and I will solve my current pain, momentarily pain, right? So right now, I have a problem, how to solve it? I will just use ChatGPT. So this is called ad hoc use. It means that we just use it to solve our problem instantly, right? But this is not a systematical integration. Organizations, they want, I mean, it's better for them to integrate Gen AI into their processes more systematically, which is, of course, very hard to do, especially now because we don't know how to do it. Because, okay, you have case studies, but the market, I mean, the providers are constantly changing, and it's really risky to attach yourself to one provider. So, actually, management, at least as I see it, they don't know exactly where to go, how to change, how to start, what to do, where to learn, what to do. So this is the problem. It's a kind of a loop, right? Because employees, for example, they want to use some tool, then they ask management, I don't know if you can use it or not. So this is the problem of system integration, I would say, right? So when you ask, or when we talk about productivity on one side, and let's say systematic long-term implementation and usage to increase the skills, I think there's a huge gap between currently. I'm sure that in future years we will, as a society, we will overcome this. So I think that it's very important for organizations to change the mindset. I mean, this is, I don't want to say whatever that means, but it's, what does it mean that organization need to change the mindset? Probably employees, leadership, everyone needs to think conceptually a bit different, right? So what will now really change? Which processes will really change? So in the past, so when this Gen AI, let's say, revolution or hype started, one of the first citation was that the people will not be replaced by Gen AI or AI, but by somebody who will be able to use these tools better than they, right? But this is now actually not popular anymore. Actually, this is not the case. What is now coming up is that the skill of the future will be the possibility to adapt to changes, right? So not how to use AI or Gen AI or whatever, but being flexible to adjust to new ways of processes, technology, so that I'm flexible. This flexibility is very important. And we know that employees, I mean, sometimes, you can find employees that don't want to change. So this change management is very hard, very important. And this is something that organizations that want to implement Gen AI into their, let's say, long-term learning or long-term whatever, they need to somehow first change the mindset, I would say, and then they can systematically integrate the Gen AI into their processes, and then on a long term they will gain competitive advantage, right? So how does that help to their employees is that, I mean, because we talk a lot about learning, right? So to your question and also M6, right? So it's about learning, long life learning. What is dangerous with Gen AI, and I think we can discuss this later maybe a bit, but what is dangerous is that it's a huge difference between do and learn, right? So actually, if we want to learn, Gen AI is maybe not the best solution if you want to learn something. I mean, if you want to study some concept, some phenomena really hard, what you need to do, you need to read the textbooks from the first page to the page 350, because when you're reading the stuff, your cognitive processes are a bit different, right? Because you spent a lot of time reading the stuff, thinking about, what did I just read, like that, okay? So you memorize it, you think about the stuff, while with Gen AI, you do the stuff, right? So you get the solution. So whenever you want to use Gen AI for learning, let's say in this ad hoc manner, like productivity and stuff like that, maybe not just asking ChatGPT for something, but rather to create some kind of gamification approaches or tutorials or stuff like that. And with that, those tools are really good, right? So it's complicated.
So in your experience, does AI serve more as a strategic tool for developing talent or just a shortcut for completing tasks in a learning environment?
I think for now, in learning environment, it's unfortunately serving just as a shortcut, I would say, but it should be more strategically aligned. So it depends on which level of education, but when people are using Gen AI for learning, if they are not using it properly or correctly, it might be a shortcut. So what I think is that organizations that deal with this should somehow strategically incorporate again Gen AI into their learning activities, right? So more on it should be strategical. It's not, I think.
Maybe people should be trained how to use Gen AI to warn them about hallucinations and to tell them that you shouldn't over rely on Gen AI content and guidance, you still need to have some expertise in the domain, because people might start feeling overconfident that they can be productive in any domain.
Yeah. We were now all experts on everything.
Of course, but they can drift away into things that are beyond logic, beyond comprehension. So it's people should, like cyber hygiene, they should also have AI hygiene nowadays, to be careful how much and what you rely.
I mean, this is a very good point, very important point. So whenever, of course, I have some workshops and stuff like that, and a lot of times I'm talking more negative than positive, but not that I would be negative about the use. I mean, I'm a true fan. I really use it.
Sure.
But what I never can't emphasize enough is that those risks, right? Like you said, hallucinations and too much reliability. Everyone is now expert on everything. And when you said that you still need to be domain expert, I think that now actually this is even more important than before, more than before, because what you said is that everyone can do whatever he or she wants, and because of the hallucinations, you need to recognize the hallucinations. So how to recognize them? Yeah, by being a domain expert, not AI expert, but domain expert. So this is very important, crucial point for now, I would say. So
exactly.
Very good point.
So now let's move towards when organizations introduce AI in education or training, what do you think are more crucial concerns? Is it cost? Is it data privacy? Is it the learner's readiness? Is it long-term sustainability? What are the major concerns when introducing AI?
Yeah, I mean, I would say lack of knowledge how to do it. I mean, at least how I see it everywhere where we talk about this, it's like, okay, how, what we should do, because we have some small, of course, tools, or you can have some small, let's say, tricks and tips, but at the end of the day, this is not systematical integration, right? Because it is, at the end of the day, it's a new thing. So I wouldn't say cost, I mean, because organizations have money, right? So it's not that expensive, I would say. So lack of knowledge for sure. But by my opinion, is the very end. Privacy is also very, 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 very important, and security, because whenever you press enter, it goes somewhere, right? So if you don't want that, then you need some local server.
Sometimes if you don't press enter, whatever you type simply goes.
Yeah, okay.
If we believe in conspiracy theories. So many companies now claim that they are implementing digital transformation. So in the context of learning and upskilling, what do they often misunderstand? What should they actually change first to enable this effective learning?
Yeah, now, so your question was more about digital transformation, right? So not that much about Gen AI transformation, right?
Exactly.
So it's
perhaps the thing about paper and
yeah. So it's this is a $1 million question, because nobody knows how to answer this, right? So what should they do the first? But what I think first, they should systematically approach, right? So they need to learn how to do it, right? So again, this knowledge, as said earlier, a lot of times management just comes and say, oh, you do this, I go. This is not a good approach, right? So let's learn about what are the capabilities, what are the possibilities, what are the benefits of, let's say, digital transformation, and then, methodologically and systematically approach the digital transformation. It means that it's not a one-way, or let's say 1 hour thing when you just take something off the shelf and just do something, but it's a continuous ongoing project. So you need
and it's not a straight path.
You should analyze the business processes, I think,
and adapt as things adapt,
and then see what's going on now and what are the opportunities for the improvement and, let's say, optimization, and then support this change of, let's say, added value with technology. So how to approach it? First, learn how to approach it. It's easy to say, and then do it systematically.
Learn the possibilities and
what's possible
capacities
and what's not,
of the technologies. So once you know what they are capable of, you can implement them to fix an issue you have or to optimize a process.
Exactly that.
So you need both aspects of the know-how on the technology capabilities and know-how of your business processes, and try to reform them.
This technology, let's say, implementation acceptance is very widely known, right? So you have a lot of aspects, but today we talk about the organizational aspects. But of course also cost benefit is also very important.
Right. So, with generative AI, what do you think about critical thinking and analytical skills? Are they becoming less important or more essential for learners and professionals?
This is a very good question, which we could talk about for ages, but we'll try to be short. So I think the critical thinking will be more important.
Exactly.
I think that critical thinking is being diminished. So on the other side, from more philosophical aspect, every time that a new technology comes in the history of civilizations, actually critical thinking go down a bit, right? So this is typical for every kind of technology, right? So we are less innovative and stuff like that. So, but this is actually the fundamental question: is why do the kids in primary school learn how to, sum and divide and multiply if they have calculators? So why do they learn that, right? So do we still need to learn the stuff? I think yes, because with Gen AI, actually humans are super lazy, right? So we will use Gen AI for sure. And also some studies has already shown that even in a short amount of time, when you stop thinking and just rely on technology, your critical thinking really goes down. I mean, really fast. So it's not like that you would need to use it for 10 years and then you would see the consequences, but you can use it for 2 months. And
during summer vacation, your IQ drops. So
yeah, exactly.
We need to be constantly on the edge.
So I think critical thinking, I mean, it will be even more important if a lot of people will rely on
in an era where we are bombarded with news, including fake news, and we are provided with answers to any of our questions, critical thinking is even more crucial than before, because there is no single master truth you can rely on nowadays, because
I mean, it's a lot of examples when people just trust, this ChatGPT in parentheses, right, and just do something.
So very often you are faced with leaders and they want measurable results. So how can you explain AI-supported learning to these leaders that want measurable results, but they don't understand data, they don't understand models, they don't understand the technology behind it?
I mean, this is unfortunately this is how it is. Yeah, so I agree with you. So does the CEO needs to understand how machine learning works? Probably not into the latest detail, but they should know, of course, what are the limitations of technology, the conceptual thing, so how it works on conceptual level. This is, for me, I think this is very important. But the data and the model, this is hard to understand, actually, right? So when it can go into, billions of tables and data and stuff like that. So for the management, how much do they need to understand? This is, I will say it depends on the branch, on the size of the company, of the organizations, because in huge corporations, of course, the CEO cannot understand just every aspect of the company and everything, but they need to make the decisions, right? These decisions should be data-driven or at least informed, right? So not on a gut feeling and stuff like that. So if you ask how I think they should just, get somehow familiar with the basics of the technology. So it doesn't mean that they need to spend 10 hours watching some details, but maybe some workshops or something like that, and then to go to see some good practices from organizations elsewhere, right? So to be open-minded, to be open for new technologies, not just saying like, oh no, this is something new, I know better, but let's be open and let's try to look around for good practices, and this should be the main initial advice.
Right. So now, from your perspective, what is the biggest barrier for organizations or individuals in general, but maybe also in the local context here on the Balkans, in Macedonia maybe, when it comes to adopting AI for learning and professional development? What are the biggest barriers? Is it the access to technology? Is it mindset of the people, lack of skills, or commitment of the leadership? What are the biggest barriers for adopting AI for learning?
Yeah. So For learning, right, because it has some specifics, as said earlier, right? So when you want to learn something, the way how you want to use Gen AI is a bit different than if you want to do something. So the main barrier, I think, it's the mindset. I mean, I'm not totally sure how is it in Macedonia, but according to the studies that apply across the whole Europe and also in Slovenia, it's like that. You know, people are. You mentioned shortcuts earlier, right? So we are all lazy, right? And if we have a shortcut, we usually take it. And this is the mindset problem, I would say, right? So I need to change my mindset, right? That the AI will not do the stuff, Gen AI will not do the stuff instead of me, but I'm in charge. I'm the boss, right? And the Gen AI should help me with something, right? So this mindset. And then that you don't, you know, how to say, overskip the experiences and stuff like that, right? Because you can get an instant solutions, you can get them, they are good, but if you don't understand them on a long term, this is not very good. So the biggest barrier, I think, is the lack of knowledge on how to use. And also, as said, right, so we are just down the hype now. It's actually very hard to predict what will happen because it's a very wild market. You know, that's a lot of money involved in all open AI and everything. So who will prevail, how, with what? And then you have privacy, security concerns, data security. So it's lack of knowledge, I would say, the main barrier.
Sure. And based on your experience with over 150 AI workshops you've organized, what separates the organizations or individuals that only experiment with AI in learning and the ones that fully integrate it into their development process?
So what I would say that, so where the change or this distinction happened was, so AI is here, Gen AI is here, it will not go anywhere, so the organization should think about it, right? So it's, you know, those early adopters, so the organizations that immediately, let's say, jumped on the train are now more experienced, right? So they now can or are integrating it into their processes. So this is their advantage, that they started earlier than the rest of the organizations, right? So it's for sure competitive advantage for them, right? So it's... I think it's important, again, as we already said, right, so that you are open-minded and that you just try to, but in a smart way, right? So what I also see very often is that they just want, the organizations just want to solve everything with the Gen AI, but not everything is appropriate to be solved by Gen AI. So let's do it systematically. Let's think about your pain, what's my pain, analyze it, change the process.
So probably we should train top management and further down so that they are aware of what is possible, what is impossible, what is applicable, and always keep them informed and trained, because if they know nothing about certain technology, they might just be afraid and not touch it, or they can over-rely on not reliable advisors or sources. So some sort of training and know-how to everyone in the organization.
Raise awareness, capacity building.
Exactly.
I would say, because I mean, it depends a bit, right, on the type of the organization, on the type of, let's say, management, because I've already seen management that said, we don't care. We just care about how much this costs and what will be the benefits. I mean, so it's...
But in a rapidly evolving disruptive technology such as Gen AI nowadays, it's hard to predict.
Yeah.
And it's hard to estimate the return of investment. It's hard. They haven't estimated their own return of investment. You know, the rumor says they're working with loss every day.
Oh yeah, you mean the providers?
The providers.
Yeah.
So even they haven't solved the issue how to monetize this huge disruptive innovation they've done, let alone us end users. That
I agree. Crazy.
So let's move on to leadership in the age of AI. Are there any certain types of learning or development activities that should never be fully automated with AI, and why?
Two types of the activities that should not be automated with AI, I think. So one is, let's say, more technical perspective. So we have two perspectives, human and technical. Technical perspective is that for some things, it's not appropriate to use Gen AI. So to answer short, Gen AI can be creative, right? So it's not deterministic. So if you have the tasks that must be deterministic, then you should not use Gen AI, right? So for now, some calculations, numbers, stuff like that, because it might be wrong. So for deterministic problems, My advice would be don't use Gen AI. And the other distinction, so this is technical perspective. The other one is human, right? So we talk a lot, and this debate was going on even before Gen AI, right? So this human touch, let's say, right? So digital versus human. So what does that mean? Is that the technology can automate some activities and tasks, but let those tasks be repetitive written. So for example, if you have a nurse and she's fully occupied with some tasks, and then you have some machine that can, automate those tasks, this is good because the nurse can then go to the patient and holds his hand. So this is the human touch, right? So let's, if possible, the societies should move from, the technology should replace these routine tasks, right? And we should focus more on human touch activities.
Exactly. And
Empathy.
also, any decision made by an AI platform, especially if it concerns human health or self-driving cars, it needs a human touch, a human overseeing it, because maybe AI will not have all the inputs from the patient lying on the bed. The nurse can still notice different color on the skin, something that AI sensors feeding the AI model will not deliver. So overdosing with medicines and stuff like that.
I always say that we should ask ourselves about the consequences, right? So if the consequences, if this is something trivial without any real consequences, we can use Gen AI, why not?
Sure.
But if the consequences are that somebody can die, then it's...
we should have a human revision of every guidance provided by the AI.
For now, yes. Yeah. So it's
exactly.
Decision making.
What responsibility do organizations have to support learners whose skills may need to change as AI becomes more integrated into workspaces?
Yeah, I think that what they need to do is to establish the environment when this change will be possible. It means that, for example, so two things. On one side, you have people who want to change, but they cannot due to, let's say, rigid environment. And on the other side, you have people who don't want to change, but the management want that they change. So how to do them? Both of them should be motivated. So usually if you want to change somebody, you need to show benefits. Leading by example, if you ask me, is very important. So when we're talking about digitalization and digitalizing papers into the, PDFs, and if the management says, okay, let's digitalize, but they use papers, then this is not working. So lead by example, I think is very important, and they should establish the environment. So if somebody wants to learn something, send them to some trainings. If somebody wants to try to use something, establish the secure environment and let them try, stuff like that. So
Exactly. How does AI change the responsibilities of leaders who are trying to develop talent, to try to nurture self-leadership and build a learning culture? So how does AI change these responsibilities for leaders?
I think that the AI, now what is AI really changing is the skills of the future. Not just of the leaders, but the future employees will need to have different skills as well as the leaders, right? So the future leaders will also need to have different skills, and this is about change and stuff like that. So what I think is that they, when developing, when HR, for example, wants to develop their talents, what they can do, they can utilize, of course, Gen AI to do some, some events, some games, some whatever, some capacity building events. This is super good, but again, very dangerous is this critical thinking. So if my advice for the organizations would be, of course, use Gen AI when developing talents, but put focus on critical thinking, right? And put focus on this flexibility or possibility to change, to adapt to the new thing. So this should be put in the middle. And with that, Gen AI can help as well as it can help to any other activities.
So if we summarize the things we discussed during our talk, why is it important for companies to attend trainings and to learn directly from hands-on experience? What do you think is the major drive to?
Yeah, I think as we were discussing, I think that people nowadays they are asking themselves, what is that? How does it work? What should I do? How should I do it? So when you see good practices or use cases, you can find maybe some similar example to your organization, and then you can see, okay, they did that. Maybe this would be useful to do it also in our organization. So this is one thing. And the other thing is that when you gain a new additional knowledge, you learn about first how Gen AI works, so you get familiar with the limitations, which I think is very important. As we said, so you have these benefits and limitations, and only if you understand limitations, I think you will be able to implement it in an appropriate way, because also, as with other technologies, there's a lot of projects which were not successful. Also with Gen AI, you have a lot of huge projects, and at the end of the project, they just said useless, right? So it's capacity building, knowledge, how to do it, how it works, what are the possibilities, and then you move to your organization, like processes, analyze what's the pain, how to do it, and then systematically pilot project of something, and if it works, then you just stretch it to the company.
Exactly. Well, I think that companies should team up with a reputable training provider that provides reputable trainers on novel technologies, so that companies, leadership, and employees get the grasp of what is emerging, what can be done, and try to correlate what is available on the market with what the issues are with the company, the optimizations that can be done, the automation that can be done. So always try to be well-informed, educated on new technologies. And of course, we cannot emphasize enough, like you said, critical thinking.
Yeah.
And not overplaying the AI card on domains that you are not comfortable with, that have no background.
That's very important point, I would say.
Because it's quickly things get shallow when you overstep.
Yeah, it's very simple. You just
and then
just
you fall
press
off the wagon.
button. It's super easy. Yeah.
So Luka, we are constantly overwhelmed with information and offers. We are bombarded with ads. The hype for AI is overwhelming. We are constantly offered tutorials on how to write prompts more efficiently. We are bombarded with tools that use AI to optimize everything, whether it's scientific paper writing or home tax calculation or whatever. So what's your view in all this hype with these AI tools and AI trainings? What's your view how to make the most out of what we are offered? How to maximize the benefits and escape the pitfalls of over-marketeered tools?
Okay, good question. Yeah. So what I think, I agree, we're bombed, of course, and organizations that sell something, they need to earn their money, of course, for sure. So my advice, when organizations would, let's say, decide for training or whatever, would be to look for objectively, for the, of course, what I want to say, I will be direct. So if somebody comes from some company, organization that sells some Gen AI tool, of course they will try to sell you the stuff. So I've seen a lot of workshops when they say, we don't try to sell you anything, but they just talk about their software, right? So it's like, sublime selling. So I think that it's very important that when organization goes to some educational event or whatever, that those educators are objective, right? So that they tell you the pros and the cons, and they objectively analyze the processes and tell you what they really think, right? And for example, okay, I come from academia, but I still think that we people from academia, for example, we don't have this pressure from organizations. So I don't need to sell you anything. I'm not selling anything, right? So right. I try to be as objective as I can be, right? So I will try to tell you this. So this kind of, let's say, educational institutions like M6, for example, I think this is a very good choice.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to come all the way to Macedonia,
Pleasure is
Slovenia,
mine.
and to join us in this podcast. I would like to thank the listeners and to invite them to follow us in the future for more guests on attractive and contemporary topics that are useful in their professional and personal development. So thank you, Luka, once more. Stay tuned for more.
Okay, thank you.